Joining us now at the Okta Gov Identity Summit is Jose Padin, U.S. Public Sector Director of Engineering for Zscaler. Jose, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Jose, what are the biggest challenges government agencies still face in moving towards more modern and centralized identity management capabilities?
Well, what's really interesting is I think Zscaler has a really unique perspective on this. So if we think about zero trust, so oftentimes people think that means there's no trust. In actuality, what it means is that there is specific, explicit, identity-based trust at a point in time. So if we think about what happened over the last 3 years with Zscaler growing our FedRAMP solutions within the federal government, we have JEB, high authorized FedRAMP solutions, as well as IL5 solutions. As we talk to our customers about adopting these solutions, and we've had tremendous growth over the last 3 years, the first question often comes, what about identity? What are your plans for external facing IDP? What do you use for that? And I could tell you 3 years ago, oftentimes that discussion looked very different. It was about education of why you need for external facing IDP, standards-based, why Okta is a great solution to be able to assist and can rapidly roll out and use existing directories that may be there. So now, today, when we have those discussions, the understanding of zero trust, the understanding of the pillars around zero trust, and what it takes to be successful in that manner has changed that conversation. So the challenge originally of just understanding the need to have an external facing IDP and having an external directory to get access to your apps and data and allow your constituent and partners to get access easily and seamlessly, that was the biggest challenge originally, is just awareness of having that external need. Now, we get to a place where there's been huge adoption, a lot of change, and an understanding that this is a standard that every agency needs in order to do business in 2022, because the apps are no longer on-prem behind a castle moat. The data is no longer on-prem behind a castle moat. It's all outside of a physical network infrastructure, so we need to be able to have identity outside of that network. So it's been a great 3 years in having these discussions and seeing the government rapidly adopt and grow.
Following that thread, how are recent gains in identity management capabilities translating into a better customer experience with the public or American citizens?
Yeah, what's really interesting is if we break down some of the use cases that are out there, we're seeing a need to secure what traditionally maybe was either basically secured with a basic username and password, or no security, data was allowed to be able to be downloaded automatically. Now we see so much in the cyber threat landscape affecting this data, affecting this constituent communication channel, and brute force attacking this infrastructure. It's causing a lot of problems, and in fact, it's forcing a lot of investment into kind of traditional dated security model. What we see is a use case to pair with Okta and pair with constituent-facing identity, where we can create a zero trust access method to the constituent-facing information sharing services. This can reduce the attack surface that's on there and allowing you to have a modern approach to security and a modern approach to data sharing. This identity, though, is still the first thing that's most important in this communication channel. And Okta's had some incredible technology lately to be able to have that public identity allow you to have authentication on these constituent-facing sites, and then furthermore, to have a specific identity at a specific point in time for a specific transaction and allow you to get access to the data that you need without having to have big, cumbersome databases of PII that really, frankly, no one wants, right? We want to be able to allow that transaction to have that information sharing and do that in a seamless manner. And there's ways that we could do that together for constituent-facing data with Okta. So it's a great use case, and I think it's something that I expect. I've seen a growth within the last year, and I expect the next 3 years to be a lot more growth in something like that.
Jose, as we close out, how are modern cloud-based identity platforms helping to accelerate the government's efforts to meet the administration's zero trust security mandates?
Yeah, right now is a really interesting time. So if we look at what's happening in policy, I mean, first of all, I just applaud the White House. I applaud what's happening from a policy perspective to modernize the cybersecurity stance of the government. And that's all of the government, federal government, state and local government. These policies really apply to everyone. If we look at the presidential OMB mandate, we look at the executive order, we look at 2209, we look at the guidance that's out there, it's pretty clear what this guidance is, and it is start adopting modern technology today, right? The guidance is really clear, and I always call back to 2209. There's a section in there that says take a FISMA moderate application that currently doesn't have access to the internet and find a way using zero trust principles to make access via the internet, right? And in there it specifically says we are asking you to do this in order to gain confidence in zero trust principles. So the mandates are there, it's very clear, and it's very clear to start now, right? But if we look at what the definitions are of that, that's the other pillar that comes to play that is really growing and I think is helping the government change rapidly, which is the definition of what zero trust means. And if we look at what NSA did, if we look at what DISA did, if we look at CISA's zero trust cybersecurity maturity model, it's incredible because now we have a definition of what this modern SaaS looks like. We could look at the pillars that are out there and we can measure against that. So it's no longer, well, we're not sure what zero trust means, we're not sure what modern security means. It's defined. We could look at what CISA has put out there. And the first pillar is identity. We need to think about what we do from an identity perspective. We want to make sure that we can take into multiple use cases without going back and having to re-architect and spending years to redesign our existing infrastructure and directory services that are out there. And then use that and leverage that as the key to everything else that you're doing. So it's great that we're seeing these executive orders, we're seeing the mandates around moving forward in cybersecurity, and then the definitions are just helping us propel even faster and quicker and move to a place that we could get into a stance of embracing the modern philosophy around cybersecurity within the government. And I've seen it today. I have many examples where I've seen governments embrace this, move to a SaaS-focused modern cybersecurity method, and have had great success doing that in a short period of time.
Jose, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.